Okay, picture this. You walk into your local grocery shop, you're standing there, maybe leaning against the counter, and you look up at the shelf behind the shopkeeper. And right there, staring back at you, is just this wall of yellow.
The famous ghee shelf.
It is a wall of ghee. I mean, you've got maybe 8, 10 different jars, different shapes, different labels. Some look premium, some look, traditional. But if you strip away the stickers, the stuff inside is, well, it's terrifyingly similar.
It's all roughly the same shade of gold.
Exactly. It's all granular. And you, the customer, and honestly the shopkeeper too, you're just paralyzed. You're stuck asking one single internal question.
Which one is safe?
That is the question. Which one is safe? Not which one tastes best or which one is cheapest. It's about safety. And today we're doing a deep dive into a really fascinating piece of science material. It's titled Beyond the Jar: Selling Trust in the Ghee Industry.
And it's this breakdown of what they call FMCG sales with value. This is such a compelling look at sales psychology.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes something as traditional as ghee and just uses it to deconstruct how we build trust. The source material argues that in this specific industry, a brand name, it's just not enough to secure the sale. It's all about Vishwas.
Vishwas. So that means trust.
It means deep trust. Faith, almost.
Yeah.
The whole premise here is that while you might think you're buying a jar of clarified butter, you're actually buying the integrity of the person who's handing it to you.
We're going to unpack why that is. And honestly, it feels like a masterclass in shifting from just a transactional mindset, just moving units.
The relationship mindset, yeah.
I have to admit, when I first looked at this, I thought it's just ghee. It feels so low stakes on the surface. Why is there so much psychology involved in just, buying cooking fat?
See, that's where you're wrong.
Yeah.
And the source makes a really critical distinction right off the bat. Ghee isn't like milk or bread. If you buy a loaf of bread and it's a day old or maybe a bit stale, what happens? You grumble, you make toast, and you move on. It's a low-risk annoyance.
Yeah, you buy milk every day. If one packet is off, you just fix it tomorrow.
Exactly. But ghee. The source points out that ghee is not a daily product in terms of how often you buy it. You aren't buying a liter of ghee every single Tuesday. It's a monthly, maybe bi-monthly purchase. It's an investment.
And when you do buy it?
When you do buy it, who eats it?
Well, everyone. It goes in the lentils. It goes in the rotests.
Right. It's being consumed by your children, by your elderly parents. It's the foundation of the family meal. So the stakes are automatically sky high.
Right.
The source explicitly states that buying ghee isn't just a product decision. It is a decision of trust. It's a health decision.
Which puts the shopkeeper in a really weird position. Because we usually think about the customer's fear, but the shopkeeper is the gatekeeper here.
Think about the retailer's dilemma. This is a guy running a local shop. His entire business model is based on neighborhood reputation. If he recommends a new brand of ghee to Mrs. Sharma down the street and she gets sick, or even if it just smells a little off,
she's not coming back.
She's not coming back for the ghee, but she might not come back for the rice or the sugar either. The source says the retailer is the primary filter. If the retailer doesn't trust the product, they just won't push it. They can't afford to.
I want to dig into the math of that risk because I think we underestimate it. It's not just about feelings, it's about money.
Oh, absolutely. Let's look at the margins. On a jar of ghee, a shopkeeper might make, 20, maybe 30 rupees profit? It's a very thin margin game.
Okay.
Now, imagine he sells a bad jar. The customer returns it. He has to refund the full price, let's say 500 or 600 rupees.
Ouch.
To make up for that one single refund, just to break even on that loss, he has to sell 20 to 25 more jars of ghee perfectly.
That really puts it in perspective. One bad recommendation just wipes out the profit of 25 good sales.
That is why trust is an economic metric here. The shopkeeper is terrified of this scheme.
Yeah.
He needs stability.
So you have this high-pressure environment. The shopkeeper is calculating all this risk in his head, and then in walks the salesman.
Right.
And according to our source, this is where most salesmen, let's be honest, they completely faceplant.
They fall into the Me Too trap.
I want to role play this, but I want to do it properly. I want to feel the pain of this interaction. So I'll be the salesman. I've got a quota to hit. I'm desperate, and I've got a bag full of jars. You be the skeptical shopkeeper who has heard this 1,000 times.
All right. I'm standing behind the counter, arms crossed. I've got 10 brands on the shelf already. I do not need another one. Go.
Good morning, sir. Sir, you have to stock our ghee. Look at the packaging. It is premium.
Grunts.
Yeah.
Looks like the other ones. I have no space.
No, sir. Listen.
Yeah.
Our ghee is pure, 100% pure. cow ghee.
Everyone says it's pure. The guy who was here 10 minutes ago told me his was pure.
But sir, quality. This is the best quality in the market. I promise you, just try one case.
I don't need quality. I need sales. Why should I switch?
Okay, sir, listen. The rate. The rate is very good. I can give you a better margin than the leading brand.
Brrr.
Stop!
That was painful. I felt you tuning me out after like the second sentence.
I tuned you out the moment you said pure.
Why? It's a positive word.
It's a useless word. The source highlights the retailer's internal monologue during that pitch. The shopkeeper is thinking, everyone says that. It just becomes white noise. My ghee is pure. Best quality, good rate. These are zero-value statements.
It creates a stall. The sale just stops dead because there's no differentiation at all.
It's a failure of communication. The salesman is broadcasting on a frequency the shopkeeper stopped listening to, like 10 years ago. The salesman is trying to sell a commodity, but the shopkeeper is looking for insurance.
He's looking for safety.
And saying it's pure doesn't prove safety. Not at all.
So if pure and best quality are forbidden words, how do you break through? The source introduces this concept of the value-based approach. And the rule they give is simple, but kind of counterintuitive for a salesperson. Speak less, explain more. It sounds like a paradox, doesn't it? Usually, we think sales is about talking at someone. But here, it's about education. It's about pivoting from being a promoter to being an educator.
And this is where we need to get a little technical. Because the source says you can't just claim quality, you have to explain the science of the quality.
Yes. This is how you build authority. You don't claim authority, you demonstrate it through deep knowledge.
Let's look at the first fact mentioned in the source. Color. The source says the salesman should actually highlight that natural ghee does not have a uniform color.
This is a huge point. In the modern world, we're all conditioned to expect industrial perfection. We think every bottle of soda, every chip, every cookie should look identical.
Sure.
But ghee is an agricultural product.
But wait, let me play devil's advocate here. If I open a jar in January and it's bright yellow, and then I open another one in June and it's pale cream, isn't that a sign of bad quality control? Why should I accept that?
That's exactly what the customer asks. And a bad salesman apologizes. A good salesman explains the biology.
Okay, so what is the biology?
It's beta-carotene. The yellow color in cow ghee comes primarily from beta-carotene, which the cows get from eating green grass. Now, just think about the seasons. In the rainy season, when there's plenty of fresh green fodder, the cows ingest more beta-carotene.
And the ghee gets that rich golden yellow.
Right, and in the summer, or in the dry months when they are fed more dry fodder, the beta-carotene levels drop. The ghee naturally becomes paler, more cream-colored.
So the variation actually proves it's natural.
Precisely. If it were always exactly the same, like neon yellow, regardless of the season, that would actually suggest it's filled with artificial colorants to mask the variation. So the salesman tells the shopkeeper, "Sir, every batch is not the same because the cow's diet is not the same."
That is such a power move. You're turning a potential complaint into a proof of authenticity.
You are. And you're giving the shopkeeper the ammunition to explain it to his customer when they complain.
Okay, let's go to the second fact. Texture. The source talks about grains versus liquid. And again, temperature plays a huge role here.
This is where we get into crystallization. Ghee is just a mixture of different fats. You have high melting fats and low melting fats.
I've seen this. Sometimes the ghee is solid like a rock. Sometimes it's slushy. Sometimes it has those nice little granules, the dandar texture everyone wants.
Right. And customers freak out if it changes. They think, oh, it's gone bad. But the salesman needs to explain the physics. The texture is entirely dependent on the cooling rate and the ambient temperature.
How so?
If ghee cools down very slowly, like if you leave the jar out in a warm room, those high melting fats have time to find each other and form these large, beautiful crystals. That's the granular texture.
Okay.
If it cools down instantly or if it's really cold, it creates tiny crystals and looks smooth or waxy.
So if a shopkeeper sees a jar that's half liquid and half solid in the summer,
The value-based salesman says, "Sir, don't worry. The heat in your shop has just melted the low-melting fats. The grains are the high-melting fats settling at the bottom. It's simple chemistry."
again, you're normalizing the imperfection.
You're demystifying it. Because if the ghee didn't react to heat, if it stayed perfectly solid at 40 degrees Celsius, that would be suspicious. That might suggest it's adulterated with hydrogenated fats.
Which leads us perfectly into the third fact, and I think this is the most psychological one, the overwhite myth.
This is a big one in the Indian market, but really globally, too.
The source mentions that over-white ghee often creates doubt. Why is white bad? I mean, milk is white, cream is white.
It's the Dalda effect. For our international listeners, Dalda is a brand name that became synonymous with Vanaspati hydrogenated vegetable oil. It was the cheap substitute for ghee for decades, and it is bright, stark, uniform white.
Ah, so too white looks synthetic.
It looks engineered, looks bleached. So when a salesman points this out, when they say, see, our ghee isn't stark white, it has a creamy, natural tone, they are aligning themselves with the customer's own skepticism. They're validating the shopkeeper's deep-seated fear of selling fake product.
This brings us to the psychology of truth that the source talks about. Why does sharing these specific details work so much better than just saying it's the best?
Because when you admit to complexity, when you say, hey, the color changes, or the texture moves with the weather, you aren't trying to sell a fantasy of perfection. You are telling the truth about reality. And the source puts it beautifully. When you tell the truth, the retailer stops viewing you as a salesman trying to hit a quota.
They start viewing you as a consultant.
You become a partner. You're no longer the guy trying to push a jar. You're the guy who understands the jar.
And that leads to the pivotal moment in the relationship. The source has this great line. Once a retailer believes this salesman doesn't speak falsely,
they stop just stocking the ghee. They start stocking the salesman.
That phrasing, stalking the salesman, is really interesting. It implies the inventory on the shelf is almost secondary.
It is secondary. If that specific salesman moved to a different company next week, the retailer would likely follow him. Why? Because the trust is deposited in the person, not the logo. The retailer knows if this guy brings me a product, it won't ruin my reputation.
This connects to the section in the source about scheme versus stability. Because we see this all the time in sales, right? The scheme sales.
Oh, the scheme salesman. This is the guy who walks in and plays the short game. Buy 10 cases and I'll give you a free wall clock. Buy today and I'll give you an extra 5% discount.
It's a sugar rush. It feels good in the moment.
It does. But think back to our math earlier. That 5% discount, pennies. It's nothing compared to the risk of a return jar. The salesman who sells schemes gets temporary orders.
Because once the scheme is gone, the reason to buy is gone.
Exactly. If your only value proposition is I'm cheap or I have a deal, you are so easily replaced by the next guy who walks in with a 6% discount. There's no loyalty in a scheme. You're always just hunting for the next kill.
Versus the farmer approach.
The source implies this heavily. The salesman who sells truth is farming. He's planting seeds of authority. He's explaining the beta-carotene, the crystallization. He's telling the shopkeeper, don't worry if customers ask about the color, just tell them this.
He's training the shopkeeper.
And that training provides stability. The source says, the one who sells truth gets permanent customers. Because you can't commoditize truth. Peace of mind is the ultimate luxury for a business owner. Knowing that I can put this jar on the shelf and not stress about Mrs. Sharma coming back to scream at me, that is worth way more than a free wall clock.
It's fascinating how this source material takes something that seems so transactional, selling jars of fat to a grocery store, and just turns it into a lesson on character.
It really is. It's arguing that in a crowded market, remember that shelf with 8 to 10 identical-looking brands' character is the only real differentiator. Everything else can be copied. Your packaging can be copied. Your price can be matched. But your reputation for telling the unvarnished truth,
Perhaps proprietary.
that belongs to you.
I want to circle back to that idea of the educational pivot. The source mentions speaking less, explaining more. Do you think there's a risk there? I mean, can you over-explain? Can you bore the shopkeeper?
That's a valid concern. You don't want to deliver a 45-minute chemistry lecture while he has customers waiting. But notice the selection of facts in the source. Color, texture, whiteness.
They aren't random facts.
No. These are the specific things that cause customer complaints.
No.
These are the pain points. The salesman is proactively solving problems. He's anticipating the shopkeeper's headache. He knows the shopkeeper's thinking, why is this batch darker?
Right.
So before the shopkeeper can even ask or worry, the salesman explains it. Sir, you'll notice this batch is darker winter feed, more nutrients. He's neutralizing the anxiety before it even takes root.
That's smart. It shows empathy. It shows that you understand the shopkeeper's business, not just your own sales quota.
And that empathy is the foundation of Vishwas. You're on the same team. You both want the customer to be happy and safe.
So we've gone from the paralyzed customer staring at the shelf to the Me Too salesman failing to connect to this value-based educator who builds trust through hard science. It's a complete journey.
It is, and it culminates in that shift from short-term thinking to long-term thinking. The source mentions that the ghee industry doesn't work on shortcuts.
Ghee industry shortcuts say nahi chalti.
Right. It doesn't run on shortcuts. Because trust takes time to build, but it can be destroyed in a second. The source is essentially warning salesmen. If you try to shortcut the process with lies or exaggerated claims, you might get one order, but you'll never build a territory.
I think this applies to so much more than just ghee, though. I mean, I'm sitting here thinking about my own work.
Oh, absolutely. Think about any industry where the buyer is taking a risk. Financial services, car repair, healthcare, even software sales. If someone comes to you and says, I have the best rates, trust me, you instinctively tune out.
Because I know they just want my money.
But if someone says, look, here's exactly how the market works, here are the risks, here's why this fluctuates, and here's why my product is designed to handle that fluctuation, you lean in.
Yeah.
You trust them.
Because they aren't treating you like a target. They're treating you like a partner. They are giving you the why, not just the what.
And that is the core of the source's message. FMCG sales with value isn't about adding value to the product. The ghee is the ghee. It's about adding value to the interaction. The salesman is the value add.
That's a powerful takeaway. The salesman isn't just the delivery mechanism for the product. The salesman is part of the product.
In many ways, the salesman is the most important ingredient
Yeah.
because he is the one certifying the safety.
We're coming to the end of our deep dive here, and I want to hit the outro beat because the source material wraps up with a really poetic golden rule. It sums up everything we've talked about.
It does. It's a beautiful line.
The source says, ghee taste is checked at home, but the salesman's truth is remembered in the market.
It's brilliant. Ghee taste is checked at home, meaning the ultimate test of the product. Does it taste good? That happens when the consumer is eating it miles away from the shop. The salesman can't control that moment.
Right.
Can't be there in the kitchen. But
The salesman's truth is remembered in the market.
that is what persists. The shopkeeper remembers who told him the truth about the color variation. He remembers who explained the texture. That integrity stays in the market long after the jar is empty.
It separates the physical product from the service of selling it. The jar does its job in the kitchen, the salesman does his job at the counter, and the salesman's job is truth.
That's the essence of it, moving beyond the jar. You aren't selling yellow grease.
Yeah.
You are selling a promise. And if you keep that promise, you get the repeat order. That is FMCG sales with value.
It really makes you look at that grocery store shelf differently. Next time I see those 10 brands of ghee, I'm going to wonder which salesman actually took the time to explain the beta-carotene to the shopkeeper.
And chances are, that's the brand the shopkeeper will hand to you when you ask which one is safe.
Exactly. So for everyone listening, here is a final thought to chew on. And this comes directly from the philosophy we've been discussing.
It's a question of application.
In your own professional life, whether you are selling a product or pitching an idea or just trying to build a career, ask yourself this. Are you relying on the packaging? Are you relying on schemes, buzzwords, and generic claims like I'm the best or I work hard?
Or are you relying on the truth? Are you educating the people around you? Are you admitting to the variations and the complexities of your work? Are you transparent enough that people start stalking you?
Are you building a career on discounts, doing things cheap and fast, or on integrity? Because as we learned today, the schemes might get you in the door.
But only the truth gets you the repeat order.
That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for listening.
See you next time.